How to make yourself relevant everywhere. The news of Greece and the crisis in that nation was in the media for several months. Most of the media outlets of the world reported about the economic collapse in that nation, mostly due to their inability to fund their projects or repay their debts. But not too many know that at the heart of the Greece problem is the inability of young people to be able to find relevance for themselves. The unemployment rate of job seekers in Greece between ages 15 to 24 is as high as 64. When 64 of your young people are unemployed, you hit a default very fast. Any country that cannot provide jobs is heading to a default, either by accident or by design. Greece had for a long time been depending on sponsorship and funds from international rescue loans. Loans does not help a nation for too long. Even grants is not a big relief either. Because at the end of the day, when the money in the coffers of the government is spent, some more money needs to be generated to keep on funding other expenses, projects, expenditures and national needs. Who are the people to make the money? Who are those to produce the product? The young men that are not employed. 64 of job seekers who sit at home. When that large number of workforce does not produce, yet they need to eat something, the country is only left with 36 of the population of the workforce, trying to cater for the rest of the population. That is not going to work, I tell you that. Because people who are consuming what has been produced are 3 times the size of those who are producing. No country would be able to sustain themselves that way. The end result? Economic collapse, default. The picture I have just painted above about Greece tells us the reason why the best bet and solution for the nations of the world is the ability to train men and women to take the responsibility of their destiny into their own hands. Individuals, especially young men and women, must be taught to create relevance for themselves. Make yourself so valuable in your work that eventually you will become indispensable. Augmentino. I come from the nation of Nigeria. It is a known fact in my own country that about up to 80 of young graduates are unemployable. Now note that by the word unemployable, I don't mean that most of these people are jobless or unemployed. When I say unemployable, I mean to say that human resources experts will rate these people as not been competitive enough to hold down a job in a really competitive environment. If you want to build a ship, don't drum up the men to gather wood, divide the work, and give orders. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Another proof to this is the fact that most employers, companies and industries are not satisfied with the qualification level of these graduates. Even though they are forced to employ them, but they are not getting their pay worth. A good example of this is a recent rather ridiculous story of Dangote Group trying to employ truck drivers. At the interview, a rather ugly picture that demonstrates how deplorable the education system of that nation has become. Out of 13,000 applicants who applied to become truck drivers, some were PhD holders, some were master degree holders, and majority were bachelor degree holders. Why would degree holders like this be scrambling to be employed as truck drivers? Well, that is simply an affirmation of what I had said above. When 80 of graduates are unemployable, you might only be left with becoming truck drivers, because you are left with no other place to go. These statistics is a hemorrhage on a nation. A national shame and disgrace. Of the 13,000 applications, 8,460 were bachelor degree holders. 704 carried master degree certificates. 6 were PhD holders. What do you think about that, my friends? Don't you think the Greece scenario is beckoning? The question of employment, jobs, and the ability of different governments to resolve this global task is indeed becoming overwhelming. We need a new approach. It is my firm belief that the old thinking of producing graduates who later look for jobs is completely derailing. It is born out of the early capitalist philosophy of tertiary institutions producing and graduating students as workers, servicemen, employees in companies that are owned by few wealthy individuals. That mindset has taken such deep root in the heart of our modern society that it has almost become a given that graduates look for jobs. The fundamental philosophy of this concept is where the problem is. Universities should not be producing and graduating just employees, workers, or managers. Colleges and higher institutions of learning should be able to do something better than that. The old concept of producing graduates to service corporations and industries owned by few private individuals is completely faulty. The current crisis going on in various countries of the world, like in Greece, is only but a confirmation that the whole system is falling apart. Old mindsets must give way to more progressive ideas. The technocrats who are sitting in our ministries of education, those who are responsible for our academic curricula, must be either urgently replaced or go for an apparent upgrade. We have to come up with a new approach to tertiary education. We must move away from just graduating employees and managers into producing self-employable graduates. This might sound like a new concept, but the goal is clear. A graduate must never be looking for a job. At least for the most part. I think it is a testament to our failure that graduates are unemployable. So, what am I advocating in this article? My answer is capsuled in one word: relevance. That word is a significant word, if our age is to move forward. The topic of this article is called How to Make Yourself Relevant Everywhere. Every man stamps his value on himself. Man is made great or small by his own will. J.C.F. von Schiller. If we are to create a future economy where we don't need to worry any longer about unemployment rates and statistics, if we are to stop witnessing the collapse of governments and political destinies en masse, we must pay more careful attention to the word relevance. Our higher institutions must begin to think more about how to educate students in such a way as to make individual graduates relevant in his or her world. When a graduate is taught and trained to make his or herself relevant everywhere, then that is mission accomplished. The goal of education, especially higher education, should be to train young men and women in the act of creating relevance wherever they might find themselves. Can you imagine when the bureaucrats in government ministries of education develop the curricula for tertiary institutions, geared at making individual graduates to be able to by themselves create both demand and supply of their services? Now that is relevance. If you do not feel worthy, then you have probably accepted some very limiting ideas about yourself. These ideas exist now in how you think about yourself, your strengths or lack of them, and your goals, or lack of them. Issues of worthiness are not about what happened to you in your past. It is not about your childhood or your adolescent years. The child and adolescent still exist in you now. A lack of self-worth comes from what you tell yourself is true about you in the present. Steve Nobel. The goal of education, therefore, should be to take a young man through school who will come out with an idea or skills that makes him be in demand. Moreover, he possesses the necessary skills to meet the demand that is created. One of the best ways to do this is to begin to add into the program of every faculty or department of universities the subject of entrepreneurship. Wealth creation principles should be knowledge not reserved for special business schools or MBA graduates. Since according to the scriptures, money answers all things. It means everybody is in need of money. If you are in need of it, you must be taught to create it. A doctor should not just be taught to cure diseases, he must be taught how to market his services. A mechanical engineer should not just be taught how to fix machines, but he must also possess the knowledge on how to find relevance for his services. A graduate of the Faculty of Education must be taught to identify the needs that will lead him or her to those who are in need of his skills. Innovation is the specific instrument of entrepreneurship, the act that endows resources with a new capacity to create wealth. Peter F. Drucker. All graduates must know how to relate to money. In real life, no excuses. You cannot say, because I didn't finish the Faculty of Economics, because I am just a doctor, I don't understand how money works. Real life treats all the same. Either you are a doctor or an MBA graduate. Everybody in every country is forced to struggle to survive under the same economic situations where the main role is assigned to commerce and money. In a day-to-day economy, you must be able to know what to do with money if you need to survive. It doesn't matter if you are a teacher, doctor, lawyer, engineer or a financial specialist. The last I heard, there are no special stores for doctors. Neither did I hear of a mall just for engineers and their families. I don't even know if there are banks designated to serve only engineers and doctors. No, my friends, Everyone is forced to work under the same economic conditions. Believe me, those laws that govern the economy and commerce are not written by the doctors or the engineers. They are written by those people who know something about money and economy. Will you therefore say that only a small segment of the society is taught the laws of money and commerce? Yet all of the society have to play by the same rules. This is the reason why I feel that relevance of every graduate to the real-life economy of the modern world is of utmost importance today. Beside entrepreneurship and the laws of money, there are other attitudinal adjustments that must be made in the way we prepare our future graduates. Our graduates must be taught in having the right attitudes that create relevance in real life. Even if you must seek employment, especially since it will take a long time before the modern structure is replaced, yet people must eat, work and get employed. How do we create relevance for ourselves if we are products of old school systems? It is in this instance that attitudes play a vital role in making yourself relevant everywhere. Without a doubt, this attitude must also be cultivated through the school systems, or as an additional subject in all the curricula of our colleges. We cannot just say that these attitudes are only needed in the area of liberal arts. No, they are also needed in sciences. Everybody needs employment. Whether you are a liberal art graduate or a science student graduate, everyone needs to put food on the table. Hence all must be taught in the right attitudes that create relevance everywhere. Friends, employers don't care what degree you have. They care about your attitudes. If you have a degree with honors and you cannot get the job done, you are not needed by any employer, you are not needed in any company. Because you have not created relevance for yourself. Almost every company owner, employer is dreaming of a day when an employee will come into his office and tell him these words: "Tell me what to do and I would get the job done." Only offer your work to those who value it. Otherwise you will feel devalued. Always honor what you do. This is so that others will see the value in what you do. Always give your best. This will steadily increase your sense of self-worth. Know that people are not only paying for the service they are receiving, they are also paying for your enthusiasm, passion, and joy in what you are doing. So the more you feel passionate about what you are doing, the more others will feel it, and the greater your opportunity for joyful financial reward. Steve Nobel: in our ministry, the Embassy of God Worldwide, we probably have over 2,000 employees. Still I am waiting for someone to come and tell me these words: "Tell me what to do and I will get the job done." Let's have a more careful look at that statement. Most graduates think that their diploma and certificates are enough for them to be employed. As a matter of fact, I used to think like that. If I show up with my first degree certificate, no one can refuse me a job. They will refuse you many times over if your attitude is not right. My thinking was that if I have the degree, I automatically qualify for the job, and that is what I thought. I thought if I showed up with a degree I could not be refused. Many people still think that way, that their top grades would secure a high earning position and salary. What a shock. Such a graduate doesn't get it when he is told he is not needed even with his high scores and degree qualifications. Why? It is because every employer wants to employ somebody who will get the job done. Not somebody who flaunts his certificate and degrees. But somebody who will be humble enough, somebody who would be submissive enough to realize that his relevance is in his ability to listen to instructions. You will be as much value to others as you have been to yourself. Marcus Tullius Cicero: "Tell me what to do and I would get the job done." That statement talks about the willingness of an applicant to listen. Wow. I will give any amount of money to get somebody to listen. A lot of employers are ready to pay any salary if they could get somebody just to listen to the instruction of the employer. To listen to the injunction of the bosses. To do what they are been told. Not to do what they think they know, but what they are been told to do. Tell me what to do and I would get the job done. Expatiating further on this statement, the second part of that sentence says, "and I would get the job done." That talks about commitment, which is an attitude of relevance. Every employer is dreaming of an employee who can guarantee results. Now, that is relevance. Our graduates must be taught not just to talk the talk, but to also walk the walk. Even right now as I write, I am still dreaming of staff members in my team who will get the job done the way it is supposed to be done, without me chasing, cajoling and correcting them 2-3 times before the job is done. It is our attitude at the beginning of a difficult task which, more than anything else, will affect its successful outcome. William James industry owners are always too busy for that kind of cajoling. They are usually men of vision. They want to start a new project. They want to run with another vision. They want to go to the next level. Nothing frustrates them like employees that can't guarantee results. If we want to eliminate problems like Greece just experienced in many countries of the world, we have to begin to teach our young men and women what relevance means. We need to teach them how to practically create relevance for themselves wherever they go. Ability is what you're capable of doing. Motivation determines what you do. Attitude determines how well you do it. Lou Holtz: at times it is not the quality of education that matters, but the ability to be able to put it to use. To a large extent, attitude could play a big role in this. Attitudinal changes and adjustments in our curriculum must touch on every specialization. The scope of this change must touch every subject and graduate. This defines entrepreneur and entrepreneurship. The entrepreneur always searches for change, responds to it, and exploits it as an opportunity. Peter F. Drucker: if all students and graduates are taught in the acts of creating relevance for themselves, the problems of unemployment would be much more easily resolved. Graduates would be able to create jobs for themselves through the skill of wealth creation. Our young men and women will be coming out of higher institutions knowing that they don't have to look for jobs, thanks to the entrepreneurial skills they have been taught. Many people have serious academic degrees but cannot find a job, and sadly their degrees are so limited that they cannot even think about how to create a job for themselves. Even if some might still need to look for employment, which would be much easier for them to do and more successfully so, they would be taught this principle of tell me what to do and I would get the job done. I think a great entrepreneur is learning every day. An entrepreneur is somebody that doesn't take no for an answer. They're going to figure something out. They also take responsibility. They don't blame anybody else. And they're dreamers in one sense, but they're also realistic and they take affordable steps when they can. Damon John: the bottom line of this article is to see the need in our schools for the preparation in relevance rather than in knowledge. These actions have to be taken by not only the graduates themselves. It must begin with political leaders who set the agenda and program for tertiary institutions. This change must affect the process of teacher preparations. It has to be supported in the offices of the ministries of education. The curricula has to be affected. Most of all, there must be a prevailing acknowledgement of the fact that all graduates of higher institutions need relevance-based training rather than knowledge-based training. It is my hope that this article would get into the hands of some interested parties. Men and women who desire positive changes in our world. I pray that by all of us working together, we could all create a better future and destiny for our children. This to me is a little contribution from the kingdom of God to the dire needs of a desperate world. For the love of God, Church and Nation by Pastor Sunday Adelaja.